Hello and welcome to the BCU Alumni podcast. I'm Bethan from BCU's Alumni team, and in each episode we welcome a different member of our alumni community back onto campus to chat all about what they've been up to since they graduated from BCU. Today we're joined by John Burton. John graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture in 2013 before completing his Master of Architecture in 2016. Nowadays he is the Senior Creative Lead at Merlin Entertainments. He's often referred to as the Rollercoaster King, and most recently he was behind the creation of Thorpe Park's biggest ever project, Hyperia. In this episode, we'll be exploring John's incredible career so far and the amazing projects that he has been behind. John, welcome to the BCU Alumni podcast.
Hello, it's so good to be here.
So, you were just 27 when you were put in charge of bringing Hyperia to life. But let's rewind to your childhood for a minute. Were you always into theme parks?
So, I was really fortunate and lucky to have been taken as a child to places like Disney World, but I was terrified of roller coasters and rides. I used to be crying on them. I would be scared. I would be like, please hold me. I think I'm going to fall out. But I don't know what happened, but there was a moment in time where all of a sudden I just got really inspired, and I kind of blame the game Rollercoaster Tycoon for that.
Okay.
I think it's quite an iconic game.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to know about it. And I remember getting that the year it came out, and I was completely hooked on it. And ever since, I was really interested in designing these attractions. And the more I went to them, the more I started to get interested in them, and the more I started to not be so scared of them. And yeah, I then really had this passion to say, I'd love to do that as an actual job one day.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide to study architecture then? And why did you choose BCU?
So when I was in high school, I did my GCSEs. I didn't do anything art based at the time. It wasn't something that I thought was of interest to me. I then was going into A levels, and at that time I was starting to think about what my future might look like. My dad was an architectural technologist, and I saw some parallels between kind of some of the things he was doing, some of the things I was interested in. And with this interest growing around theme park design, I was like, you know what, I want to do something that has got a bit of design behind it. And I was really lucky at A-level to get onto the product design course, which helped me get into university to get a design background. I'm kind of a local in a way. I'm near Wolverhampton from where I grew up, and I wanted to kind of stay local. I did look at many different universities, but BCU, kind of what it offered as a school of architecture, so it's quite an old school of architecture. It's been around for a very long time, that I was like, you know what, I want to go here. And I'm kind of really glad I did as well.
Yeah. So tell me about what you were like as a BCU student then. What were like your favourite spots? Where did you go out? And what were your like student highlights? I
wasn't your atypical student. I was not much of a party goer. I did the Freshers Week in the first week, and that was probably about it for me. I started off living in Jennings Court originally, but I later then moved in with my partner pretty soon after that and lived in Navigation Street. But in terms of what was I like, I was a bit of a geek. Not going to lie, and I'll own that. I kind of love doing the coursework. I thrive more on coursework than I do tests and exams in school. And I think that the architecture course is very much that. Each week you were coming in, you were presenting work that you were kind of crafting throughout the week, even if you were at home doing that at the times or in the studio doing that. And I kind of thrived on that in a way.
So after graduating then, how soon did you start working at Merlin, and what were those kind of first couple of years post-graduation like?
So when I did my part one, I was already kind of working for Merlin, but in a really strange capacity. I was working at the National Sea Life Centre in Birmingham as an entertainment and VIP host. So that was like talking about fish and doing VIP tours. But the kind of the crazy thing is that people come up to me and going, oh, you're studying marine biology? Like, no, I'm studying architecture. They couldn't get their head around why I would be doing that. But for me, that was also a great way, one of kind of getting the door, step in the door with people like Merlin in the entertainment industry, learning how these attractions function, but also kind of getting those skills of kind of presenting, which was honestly a weekly thing I was doing with the tutors and my peers. I was having to present work. after the part one, I then got a job working for a company called Leisure Concepts, and they're in Kenilworth. They're an architects and design firm doing a lot of work for Haven Holidays, Butlins, Forest Holidays, and I kind of started to really get my hands on projects that were in this kind of industry that I was interested in. They were doing a bit of work at the time for Merlin as well, so I was able to kind of tap into a little bit of that. When I came back, did my masters, it was about, I don't know, a few months before I was graduating my masters that this role appeared at Merlin Entertainments, and for me this was like a dream role. It's very rare to ever see something where it's a theme park creative that would come up, and I applied about a few months before the graduation, and it took altogether 6 months from that application to me actually walking through the door of the job, through doing various tasks. It was kind of like The Apprentice. You're having to pitch ideas and do these concepts, and I was having to travel down to London, what was a student kind of wage I was on with the Sea Life Centre, and freelance work I was doing, present the work, and I got this role, and it was kind of surreal because I know a lot of people, they want experience usually from people, and it's not always the most like favoured usually to not have the experience, but especially in a role like this. But the first few months, it was a big learning curve from the reality of it, but actually I could apply so many of the skills that I'd learnt at BCU, from the presentation to understanding how to read architectural drawings to how to work with the different suppliers, how things go together, and then put my knowledge and my passion side of things into it. So actually, I got into it quite quickly, and I very quickly got promoted into a creative lead position from what was the lower kind of creative role before. So my journey feels like it's gone pretty quick, but it has been nearly 9 years now since I've been there.
So obviously when you think of architecture then, and we're fortunate to have so many like incredible architecture graduates here at BCU, but most of us would obviously think of those who design houses, things like skyscrapers, not necessarily of those who design experiences, more so like yourself. So how do the skills you get from an architecture degree apply to the role that you have now on a daily basis?
So the best way I can describe what I do is I basically create a product that then Merlin, my employee, then has to go and sell that product, and I've got to make something super compelling with a compelling proposition. So the kind of relationship between architecture and my role is, think of me like a conductor of an orchestra. The orchestra is like they're architects, they're health and safety, they're freelancers who do visuals, they are health and safety people looking at it from various different lenses of how a guest might interact with this. It's you name it. I'm working with project managers, so many different people, finance, and I'm having to ensure that this project that we can dream up, that we think people will buy into, I am then responsible for ensuring it from the concept blue sky phase all the way to it opening on day one. And all the elements that I know I learnt from architecture, so being able to read the drawings, because we used to do drawings and drafting of drawings here and CAD, that I would then be able to understand when I get a lighting design or I get a plan of a building, I can understand the 3D space. I can understand the storytelling that we're going to put guests through. My job is to get thousands of people an hour through our attractions to ensure they're not queuing for a long time and they're having a great experience, and that we're crafting all those elements. And in architecture, that's something you have to be really cognizant of like, what is the space, the smells, and maybe some of the nostalgia you might put into something. All these different ideas that you might not think would go into it, but we have to do everything from the script writing, the music you're hearing, you name it. I have to manage that. And the best analogy that I can come up with is, think of it like the project is like a rugby ball, and I've got to create that rugby ball to start with, but I've got to get it from here into the goal. It might along that way have a few bumps, it might change colour when it gets to the end of it, but my remit is to get it from being the idea of what that rugby ball looks like to then the finish line, and that's the job.
So tell me about Hyperia then. How did the opportunity come about for you, and what was it like to work behind the scenes on it? So
have you been on Hyperia? Have you been on it before?
No, I'm absolutely terrified of roller coasters.
Well, hopefully I can change you with riding Hyperia, because it's very different to any of the other roller coasters you've probably ridden before. But essentially, I got a brief from the park to our team at Merlin to say, we want to create a new roller coaster. And this was like, for me, a dream project. I've always wanted to build them because they're very rare. They're a lot of money, and so they're few and far between. Not everyone's building a massive roller coaster every year. So this was the first time, I want to say nearly 12 years, that Thorpe Park had a substantial roller coaster on site. I think the last one was in 2012 at the time. And so we started work on this. It was about 3 or 4 years before it actually was finally opened.
Right.
And we were told, we want to break some records. We want to break the height record, which had been held for 30 years, Blackpool Pleasure Beach with the big one, which is a long time to hold on to the record.
Yeah.
And we wanted to go big, but also by going taller, we also were able to break some more records with that by ended up being the fastest roller coaster as well.
Yeah.
This was an amazing project to work on. We had loads of constraints. We're right next to Heathrow Airport. So trying to essentially build the UK's tallest roller coaster right next to an airport brings its own challenges.
Yeah.
We're also on a kind of an island. So we're landlocked in a way, and we can only build on so much space. So we had a very limited small footprint.
Yeah.
And with a roller coaster, you have to have quite a lot of space to be able to kind of absorb where that energy is going. So you can't just do a quick turn to the right because you'll create too many G-forces or laterals on the riders. So we had to use all these kind of site conditions as a kind of a challenge. And actually what it helped us do is create some really cool world first elements by using that, which I think is a really cool design feature for it. And I work with so many people from around the world, thousands of contractors, suppliers. The manufacturer, Mack Rides, is based in Germany, and I worked with them during COVID. I was actually in my bedroom at the time during COVID in lockdown, working on layouts of what this ride is wanting to do with it, which is really crazy to look back on now. I think it was something I was doing over Zoom calls with people in different countries, and we were able to then still create something so awesome. The final product that we ended up with, I really wanted to make sure that it was something that had never been seen before in the UK. If the big one had held that record for 30 years, what did it do then that actually we could do even better now? Technology has moved on so much. So I am a big fan of travelling around. My holidays usually involve roller coasters and theme parks. So I had ridden a few roller coasters in America, which are renowned for being massive, big pieces of metal that do crazy things. And there was one ride out there at Busch Gardens which created this sensation called airtime. And airtime is, the best way is negative G-force, which is essentially the sensation astronauts feel in the International Space Station, that floating sensation. And I wanted to bring that to the UK. None of our roller coasters really do that. They all kind of push you deep into your seat. They add positive G-forces that actually make you feel much heavier than you are, whereas we want to make you feel lighter. And so therefore, all the elements that we were kind of designing with Hyperia were crafted in a way to create that negative G-force. And that sensation is really euphoric. So even people who are the most scared of roller coasters, like yourself, we've found, who have kind of braved it and gone it, they get to the station at the end and go, I want to go on again, because it creates that real euphoric sensation that's really different to other roller coasters. Even though the height is really off-putting for a lot of people who are scared of heights, the actual feeling you get from the ride is something most people have never really experienced before.
Okay, so other than Hyperia then, what other projects have you been involved in? And also, how far in advance are they? I mean, is this literally years of hard work?
Yeah, so I mean, projects, they can be the quickest one I've ever done was about a year turnaround. The longest has probably been about 4 or 5 is generally what we work on. But my range of portfolio can be anything from a roller coaster through to a dark ride. A dark ride's like think of a ghost train, so something that's indoors on a track that goes around with things that jump out at you. Think that's kind of dark ride. Entire lands, so that's not just one ride, that is World of Jumanji, something I worked on at Chesterton, which was bringing the IP of the World of Jumanji to life through roller coasters, rides and attractions that guests feel they can step into. Warwick Castle was another one of mine that I worked on, where you're bringing to life shows. So we had the challenge of how can you bring to life a projection map show across all the castle walls. Here's your budget, which was pennies, but we were like, bring it on, we'll take the challenge on. And we were able to bring to life a real fire breathing dragon kind of effect across the walls with live actors interacting with media and stuff. And that's actually one of my favourite projects, which I never thought I would say because it's not a roller coaster, but there was something about the storytelling and all those different elements that I never thought I would ever kind of get the chance to work on. But my portfolio is so varied, from accommodation to restaurants to park planning, lands, rides, you name it. So many different ones to be I was proud of.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you describe it like that, it actually sounds quite like theatrical.
It's very theatrical. It's kind of like theatre. In a way, is what I'm working on. I mean, imagine like when you're sat in a theatre show, what you're looking at is the stage and you're seeing the actors, the lights and the sounds and music. But what we're doing is we're basically, the seats are like a ride vehicle, but we're putting you into that action. So we've got to be even more kind of 360 with that storytelling and what's the guest role. And the other thing that's very different is you might think of a show as quite linear. So you've got that kind of beginning, middle and end of a show. But with a guest, because we're putting them into that environment, we don't know where that story is going to take them. So it's kind of a bit like those old-fashioned kind of books or Dungeons and Dragons where you kind of like pick your route kind of thing. And we have to plan for every single kind of output, but ensure we've still got that beginning, middle and end to a guest's hour or day of experience. It's very theatrical. Yeah.
So what are your like favourite things about your job then? And also, what kind of opportunities have you had because of it?
I mean, opportunities. I've been able to travel a lot. Some of the attractions I work on are in Europe. So I've worked in Italy, Germany. I've been able to travel to a lot of suppliers that are all over Europe as well. Some of the favourite parts, I really find it hard to pick. There's some really great moments. I love that initial upfront coming up with the story. Sometimes, because we work with a lot of IP, which is, I guess, a predefined story or look and feel of something, you kind of locked into what you can do with that. But when you're creating your own stories, that's really exciting, because as humans, we've always told stories, right from cavemen painting on walls. This is just our new way of kind of taking people on those adventures. So I love that. But for me, the best parts is, some people would hate this. You probably would hate this, Beth. But I like to be the first person to test them out before anyone else does. I know that's some people are scary. But I know that being through the engineering and everything, I know they're completely safe and they wouldn't allow anyone out without it. But to be the first person, that's really, for me, really cool. But then after that, it's seeing the guest reaction, because that's what, for me, it's all for. I love to stand at the exit of the ride on the opening day, or stand in the operator's cabin watching the CCTV and just see the reactions that we've been working so hard for so long on, to actually make sure this is delivering what we dreamt up that it would deliver. So
where do you get like your inspiration from? Is it by literally just going on other roller coasters and attractions, or is it film and theatre?
It's anywhere, honestly. Like when we were studying architecture, we were taking inspiration from all over things. Anything can draw you inspiration. Like I was saying, like some of the IP that we work with, you've kind of got ideas behind there, but then how do you take that into like a location-based entertainment? Like some of the books that we're reading now haven't ever been seen in a physical environment or drawn, so we're able to kind of start dreaming that up through literature. Sometimes some of the ideas we take from mythology or local legend. Hyperia is based on kind of Greek mythology, but we added a real modern twist to it. So we're able to tell new stories, but use kind of a lot of kind of reference to other kind of legends and stories as well to bring those to life.
So outside of work, are you like still just as obsessed with theme parks then? Like, are you still able to enjoy them even though they are such a huge part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I've got multiple holidays kind of lined up right now that all evolve around, is there a theme park nearby? Because I just love to go and explore what other people are doing. There's so much amazing stuff in the kind of the world of the creative that's going into it, and the technology that's evolving daily with these attractions. I just want to explore and see it all and see what we could bring back here to the UK as well. So
you are somewhat of a theme park influencer. So
to some degree.
To some degree. Is it strange when people recognise you in the parks?
It's really odd. When I was growing up, there were kind of what I would say is theme park influencers, but not in the same form that we kind of see influencers now through things like TikTok and Instagram. My kind of heroes were the Walt Disneys of the world, and the John Wardley, who was the original designer of things like Nemesis, Oblivion and Air. And I just always just really loved what they did, and they were the kind of my inspirations to where I'd want to end up in the future. But through Merlin, some of the opportunities I've had is media love to talk to the person who designed the roller coaster. Even though I have worked on the project, I don't like always taking that whole credit, because there is, like I say, an army of specialities and skills behind each project that make sure these things come alive. But it does so happen that the media does like to kind of spotlight that singular person that's got the creative in their title. So I have ended up doing a lot of kind of interviews, a lot of TV, and it is very strange when I go to some of our local attractions and I've got people coming up to me asking for photos or autographs. It's a very strange sensation, because I never thought that was where this would end up, because I just love designing rides and attractions.
But does it also open you up to some level of criticism as well?
Absolutely. I think anything that is a subjective art form will always mean that you have that potential criticism for it.
So, what advice would you give to those who are also keen to follow in your footsteps then?
I think if anyone's interested in kind of the themed entertainment industry, there are so many things you can kind of get involved with. There is the TEA group, who is kind of a collection of networking you can do within this industry of various different people from different backgrounds, whether that's visualizers, interior designers, experience design, 3D spatial designers, you name it. That's a big group of people you can become part of that helps create networking. For me as well, another bit of advice that I kind of suggested was, if you want to kind of ensure that you understand how things work, I would honestly recommend getting a job within an attraction of some sort, even if it's hosting a ride or working as a custodian within the park. I think that's really important as well. And I think the reason I'd say that is because, as an architecture background, understanding how the function of something and how you as a designer can really impact the day-to-day lives of the people who are working front line of attractions is so key. Because if there's so much about efficiency of a ride that you want to get 1,000 people through it a day, if you've done bad design, it means you might limit how much you can get through, and you might make it really hard for that employee. So learning something about how it functions can then help you affect the form and the function later on in your career.
So what would you like from your future then? Where could you see yourself going in the next 10, 15 years?
Oh, that's a long time, but it will come around quick. I would love to own my own attraction at some point. I'd love to do that. I mean, I think I might need to win the lottery, but I would absolutely love to do that. And put my own spin on things. Okay,
so this is something we love to do in each episode then, a Birmingham Quickfire round.
Oh, okay.
So what is your favourite spot on the BCU campus?
Favourite spot? I always like to hang out at the front of BCU outside Millennium Point during the summer when it was nice and sunny, just on the benches, hang out with some of my peers there. That was my favourite spot.
Okay, so would you go to Snobs or Pop World?
Pop World all the way.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the cheese.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, Blues or Villa?
Neither. I'm a Wolves fan.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll allow that. Okay, Broad Street or Digbeth?
Digbeth for Digbeth Dining Club.
Okay. Your favourite Brummie landmark?
Oh, I bet no one said this before, but I'm going to say the Sea Life Centre just because I worked there and I spent a long time there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And what is the best Brummie word?
Boston.
Boston. Yeah. We haven't had that one yet. Yeah. I like that one.
Mom says it to me all the time.
Yeah. And final question then. If you could go back to your very first day here at BCU, what is the one piece of advice that you would now give to yourself?
I think it's just confidence. Just stick with being confident and just really keep pushing, because I remember being told when I got my part-time out, someone gave me a quote, a little plaque that said, "All your dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them," which was a quote from Walt Disney. And they handed me that knowing that I just really wanted to do this. And that stuck with me, and it sat on my desk for years. And then what happened was I got what was essentially my dream job, graduating straight out of university.
John, thank you so much for coming on to the BCU Alumni podcast today. It has been so inspiring to learn even more about your journey so far, and we can't wait to see you again very soon.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening. You can check out more episodes of the BCU Alumni podcast on our YouTube channel now. Thank you, and we'll see you again very soon.